your manager isn't going to look at them and go, well, why did you do that? They're going to look at you and say, you know, well, why didn't you make sure that this would stick around? And extended events has a way that retains this information. You know, sessions that you create with extended events don't just disappear when you restart the SQL Server instance. And in fact, you can configure them to just restart when the SQL Server restarts. And that way you don't lose anything and your data is going to survive. The second piece of data survivability is that problem we have with Profiler, where you start up a trace, you get the information that you need, or at least that you think you need. A few minutes go by, you start to collect some information. You still need this information because it's kind of important to figuring out what the problem is, but you find out that, you know, if I just had this additional event, I could make this better. Or if I had this other column. And with Profiler, you could do this. You could add a new event in, you could add new columns in, but you have to stop your trace, you have to put all your data someplace else, then you have to go and reconfigure your trace and get it started again, and then later on you have to push it all back together into a single source or query multiple tables in order to pull it all together. And for me, that was always a pain. You know, having to do this extra work just to be able to do the work that we think we should be able to do, it is that bar, and it always made me angry every time I had to, you know, throw data away or save it off somewhere else. Well, with extended events, you don't have that problem because you start up a session, you can add events, you can drop events. If you want no events, if you're done collecting information but you're still using the data, you can drop all the events out and it's all going to still be there. And that's that data survivability. That's that ability to collect your profiled information and not just lose it because, well, something changed. And so, yeah, you can do this, as I mentioned. You can do some of this with SQL Trace and Profiler. You know, if you are pushing trace out to files, it's not going to be as big of a deal. But if you're using Profiler and you're collecting the information, it is kind of a big deal. You could set up startup stored procedures for every time you want to run a trace over the weekend, but that's more work than we should be tasked to do. It should be as easy as clicking a button or setting an option. And that's what extended events allows us to do. And it lets us just build something once and just always have it available and at our fingertips. So let me show you how that works. Go to the first session here. Let's just drop this session I've got built. And so I built a session already that will go out there and collect some performance tuning data. But let's just start one from scratch. And so we'll create a new session, and we'll use the new session wizard. If you're not familiar with SQL Server 2012, it does come with a GUI for extended events, and so it's a lot easier to use. And we're going to call this 5 Amazing Ways. And we're going to start that session we're going to get that session started on startup. Now, let me just get zoomed in here. For some reason, I didn't have that going, but there you go. Just clicking that means that SQL Server, when you restart, your session will be there. No magic, no extra work. It's just going to be there, and it's available, and it's going to start up, and your sysadmins and your junior DBAs are not going to be able to knock off your sessions that you need in order to do your work on the Monday. And so you're going to get part of your weekend back. Now we're going to use a template that's already out there because we're going to cheat. We'll use query batch sampling. There are a number of templates that are out there. This isn't one of the amazing reasons to use extended events, but it's a pretty dang good one. It almost made that list, but we're going to do query batch tracking. All right. And if you see here, we're tracking in 3 events. Oops. Error reported, RPC completed, and SQL batch completed. So we're going to bring those in. They're already configured for us. They've got some actions that have been added in so that we have some of that extra information. And we're going to do a little filtering on it. By default, this is what the wizard already sets up. Get that going. And we want to save this off to a file, though. And we're going to throw it out here into this 5 Amazing Ways file. And so that way, a SQL Server restarts, not only will the session still be there, but we'll have it out on a file. That way we don't lose what was stored in memory. Now we've got that all done. We've got that wizard screen that I don't think anyone's ever used. And we'll just build that session up. And let's start it right away, and we'll watch it. One of the things that with 2012 you can do is you can watch sessions just like in Profiler, but within Management Studio. So we've got that going, and anytime any session gets information goes through here, it's going to come through. So that's that same session that we have right here. That's just scripted out. You can script out your sessions as well, but we've already got it started. If we take a look at our drop-down here, we do have it in the list, 5 amazing ways. So we've got that session, and if you're having that performance issue over the weekend that you wanted to insulate yourself against, you've got that available. You've got that built up, and it's already there. We've done everything that we need to do to ignore a session for an entire weekend. All right, so let's talk about accessing this data. So if we want to access the data, we can go to the XDL file and just use the store procedure to get into it, or a function to get into it. Let's just do that real quick to show you how you can get to your data and how it's going to survive for you. If you see here, we've got all sorts of data that's been collected. It's quite a bit, and it's been sitting out there for a while, and that's data survivability. You know, if every single time that you did analysis on CX weight stats, CX parallelism, use the same file, and you kept the files out there, you would be able to go and do profiling over time and take a look at that kind of information. The data that you build out survives. Now it's also up in memory, and so we can go and check memory as well and take a look at what's been collected. I think right now that we've only had, you know, the one statement that's been run. If we wanted to, we could throw a few other statements out there. So let's run a script real quick, get that running, and we'll watch this live so you can see it coming in. And it may take up to 30 seconds. That's about the default that Extended Events takes. But let's just take a look real quick and drop out a session. Drop out an event from a session. You can drop an event from a session or add events without losing your data. So let's drop that error one out. We didn't need the error one. We don't want it. And we can go out there and we can check to see which events are still associated with this. And we can see that we still have RPC and SQL batch completed. They're still out there. They're still being collected. If we go and we look at that live data,